What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Pigskins and Pinfalls. I'm your host, Dick Burns. This is my co-host.
I'm Bobby Boomerang. We're here to talk everything today from the future program of Big Men Slapping Meat to quite an amazing show from All Elite.
Okay, okay, big meaty men slapping meat. You had two wrestling
hmm
ones. I was gonna say we're here to talk everything from NFL draft predictions to WWE draft predictions. Hey, look at that.
Okay.
Hey, nice and simple. How was your week, man?
Great, man. Yeah, moved into the new place, slowly but surely unpacking, all the fun stuff that comes with moving and, setting up your internet and all that fun shit.
Oh God, we
Uh,
we know that
you know, we're,
all too well.
we're getting there. How was your week?
Not too bad. Actually got to spend yesterday at the Easter egg hunt at the White House. Got invited to that.
Love
I don't even
that.
have kids, but it was just like, you know what? I'm here for the experience.
I went to I think this is the first one they've done since 2019.
I didn't realize they hadn't done it since before the pandemic, but
Yeah, and I was at the one in 2019 with my mom, my brother, and my son. It was, like you said, it's an experience.
it's an experience. Yeah, like
hmm
now I can say that like we were making the joke about it because one of the other people I was with, because I went with one of my charity organizations, and our the manager, she was like, I just kind of want to take my heels off and walk barefoot for a moment because I'm tired of walking in my heels on the grass. And I was just like, look, at the very least, now you can have two truths and a lie. You can be like, I've walked barefoot on the White House lawn.
Yep,
It's an experience.
that's a good one.
So it's just like
That's a good one.
that's a great one. So other side notes, and this is, I don't know how public any of this is, but apparently like they actually had to shut things down at one point yesterday because the lady actually had gave birth on the lawn. Like her water broke and she delivered they delivered the baby right there on the White House lawn.
Okay,
Yeah. Talk about an experience.
yeah, yeah, that's wow.
Yeah.
There's a joke there somewhere. I just can't think of it at the moment.
Another two truths and a lie moment actually. It's just
I
like
was born in the White
I
House.
was born on the White House lawn.
Wow,
That's some crazy stuff. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just been kind of a standard week. I mean,
nice,
getting things done.
nice.
Um, we had a wild. It's actually a lot of the things that we saw were wild, but at the same time, this is actually a really quiet news week.
It was, it was not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to that. Nothing super crazy happened except for what we're gonna, open with.
Yeah, so we got to
Yeah, it's
talk
not even that crazy.
the biggest news in the NFL right now. Obviously, we always start off with our biggest news from the world of football. Well, normally, almost it's like a wrestling heavy week, but we got to talk about it. OBJ
Yeah.
has signed a 1 year deal with the Ravens worth up to $18 million. And my God, the implications here.
So, first of all, it came out, most teams were saying that OBJ was in the $4 million range.
Hmm.
He fleeced the Ravens for 18.
It's like
Good for
15
him.
plus enough bonuses to get up to 18, I
Yeah.
think it is.
Good for him for getting his bag. Um, but the one thing that I can't help but think is that Baltimore is trying to keep Lamar without paying Lamar.
And that's the stupidest thing. Like, if you're trying to keep Lamar, this is not how you do it. Now,
No,
this is the thought process I
it
had on
doesn't.
this one.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't
No,
hurt.
it doesn't. So this is the thought
But I
process
don't
I
think it
had.
helps as much as they think either.
Yeah. So my thought process is they're like, oh, this is enticing Lamar to stay, but you're not doing it because like all the money that Lamar's asking for, you're going to give it to OBJ instead. That's the one way I was looking at it. The other way I was looking at it is if this is them spending the money on OBJ, this is also them saying we definitely are out on Lamar. And it could be more of a reason to push away from Lamar, and we could see that trade before the end of the season. I mean, like before the end of the offseason. Because then they're going to be putting all their money elsewhere. A lot of talk is still going around about somebody moving up to the number 3 trading with the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
There's Adam Schefter reported this week that at least 6 different teams have contacted the Cardinals about trading for the number 3, and they haven't made a decision on whether or not to keep it or trade it. Um, most obviously, if somebody's trading that, it's because they want to get ahead of the Colts on the quarterback search. This being a very quarterback heavy draft, there's nothing that says that Baltimore won't trade away for the third. Now,
See,
do
I think the issue with that is what are they going to offer? Because they're not sending Arizona doesn't want Lamar. They have Lamar Jr. and Kyler.
which
So
again, unless
and I
you
mean that literally by stature, Junior. I'm not saying that Kyler is anywhere near the level caliber of Lamar because I don't think that he is.
it's
But
short Lamar.
it's short Lamar,
Hey,
right?
short Kings
And
unite. It's okay.
it is okay. It's okay to be short. It's okay to
He's
be
only like
short.
he's only like what 5'10", 5'11"?
Kyler, I think that's generous.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I think if we actually measure what the Cardinals have him listed as versus what he actually is, it says here he's 5'10".
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, keep in mind Russell Wilson got all the he's too short looks too, and he's 5'10",
He's 5'11".
5'11". Stay close enough.
But still,
Most of your NFL quarterbacks are in that 6'3", 6'4" range.
not yeah, absolutely. Not trying to like mix our topics here, but I don't think that Baltimore has the capital to get the number 3 pick from Arizona. However, if they do ship off Lamar, I think that they should try and pull the trigger to get that number 3 to get their future quarterback, unless they're okay with Tyler Huntley.
That's true too.
And
Now,
I would go as far as to say that Tyler Huntley, you could give him the keys to the car or the kingdom for a year. But I do not think Tyler Huntley is your long-term solution.
agreed. Now, before we get too far away from it, I do want to also point out the hilarity that there was a discussion that OBJ was going to actually go visit the Jets right before the announcement came out about the Ravens,
And he ghosted him.
and he ghosted him, which
Yeah.
terribly unprofessional, if you ask me.
I,
But
I
at the
would
same time, and also at the same time, what does that mean for the Aaron Rodgers trade?
yeah, I don't know what's holding that up, but I would argue that we kind of already knew that professionalism isn't too high on Odell Beckham Jr.
That's true, yeah.
The boat situation with New York, his dad bitching about Baker when he was in Cleveland, like
Let's
I
not
don't
forget the
think
original OBJ travesty, the issues between him and Josh Norman back when Josh Norman was our cornerback.
yes,
Let's not forget that.
So,
That's going real back.
yeah. So again, I don't think Odell Beckham, excuse me, Odell Beckham Jr. is the poster child for professionalism, but so two things. One, I saw a post that ESPN put out, and it was like this Ravens offense could be scary, and it had a picture of Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, OBJ, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I saw
And
the same one, and I was just like,
the
actually, that's
amount of laugh reacts on that was hilarious.
that. I don't know.
Because I
That
don't
is
think
so
Lamar, or I'm sorry, I don't think OBJ is a number one anymore.
no, by far not.
And
He's
I
been too far.
know
He spent too much time outside of the game.
And I know Rashad Bateman is not a number one.
No,
And
Rashad Bateman had
Mark,
his opportunity to prove himself to be the number one last year, and he failed miserably.
yeah. And Mark Andrews, he's dealing with some injury stuff from last season.
I still
So
think he's a top 3 tight end, but
I agree. I
then
agree.
again, that's a very sparse.
And nobody is threatened by J.K. Dobbins.
Exactly.
So I think that this is the Ravens' way of trying to keep Lamar without paying Lamar, which is the stupidest possible. It's just,
So here's my other thought that's coming to me as we're talking about this as well, though, is again, OBJ completely ghosts the Jets to take this contract from the Ravens. Honestly, if I was being offered 18 mil when people are valuing me at 4, I'd ghost everybody else too.
yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes
Yeah.
to the dollar bill, like you got to do what you got to do.
I do agree with that. Like, look, money. These guys play this game for money. They're not paying. not playing this for fun. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that love the game. We've talked about it before on this show. But yeah, if I'm getting paid 18 mil and everybody else is telling me I'm getting 4, yeah, later I'm
Yeah,
going with them.
exactly.
Um,
Now, on the other hand of that, mixing it up just a little bit, we do have the other side of professionalism, and that has to be Tyreek Hill. So, in an interview with Sports Radio 810 WHB, I think that a local station down there by you? I'm
it
assuming.
is. It
Um,
is.
he was on an interview with them, and he says he wants to finish out his contract with the Dolphins, and then he's going to call it quits because he wants to go into the business side. I want quote and I quote, I want to do so many things in my life. Honestly, that's impressive.
It
Like
is.
I like again, we've all thought that Tyreek Hill has been an image of professionalism and everything. Like
Well,
even when he was with
he
the
had that one.
Chiefs, like
He had
he had
that
a few
one.
spats, but
He had that one incident with his kid that was not great.
yeah, but
Live and learn.
live and
Everybody
learn.
makes
Not everybody's a perfect parent.
correct. Correct. I can attest to that. I don't know if I believe it though. I don't know if I believe let
I
me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. I misspoke. I believe he does want to get into the business side. I
mhm.
believe that he wants to do all these things with his life, and I believe that him being a multimillionaire NFL player will allow him the opportunity to do some of these things.
Absolutely. I
However,
think and you're probably going to say what I was going to say too.
I don't see how he can walk away if he's in the middle of hunting for a gold jacket.
Not only that, but he's got so much. Like I know wide receivers don't have the longest of careers, but he still has quite a bit going for him. He's got a lot of years left in the tank, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he is.
I will say though, there was that one video that was circulating the other day of him doing his like camp with the I guess like high schoolers or prospects or whatever, and the one kid that smoked him.
Yeah,
I was like,
I saw that.
oh my god, somebody that's faster than Tyreek is just that's scary.
Yeah, yeah, it is scary. But also, like,
Come to the Panthers.
look, man, everybody's gonna get got once.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone's gonna get got
You
once.
can't beat them all.
But yeah, I don't know if he'll call it. Now, if he does call it quits, I mean, he's already had a hell of a career.
Agreed.
You know, he's got a ring. He's balling down here in Miami. And him being paired, I think the Dolphins made quite a few great moves this offseason to make up that playoff push. I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of my friends down here that are Dolphins fans are excited about next season.
Oh, I don't doubt
So,
it.
you know, but yeah, we'll see that because it's interesting. Again, I don't know how much.
It's worth keeping an
I
eye on.
think I also think I think Tyreek would kind of be easy to talk into staying if they said like, "Hey, we're going to give you a 2-year deal, max money,
Mm-hmm.
and hang out for 2 more seasons."
So I just pulled up his contract information. It was a 4-year, 120 mil contract. He's slated to be a free agent come 2027. So he still has 3, 4 years on his contract. If that sounds right. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
because this was his first year with Miami.
Well, then that would make it a 5-year contract, wouldn't it? Or would it be like 4-year plus potential for a 5th-year kicker? Because
That's
it's
probably it.
yeah, probably because like it's saying he'll be an undrafted free. He'll be a unrestricted free agent in 2027. Is his point? Keep in mind he'll also be 33 at that time. So
That's also true. He will be getting up there in age, especially
mhm.
for a wide receiver.
Wide receivers regularly only last about 10 years in the league.
Great
Respectfully,
ones. Great ones.
great ones. And that would you got to think how many years he spent in Kansas City before that. That actually does make sense.
I,
If he's in his early 30s and he decides to go ahead and call it a career, after whatever he does in the next couple years, let's say Miami gets a ring in between now and then.
If he gets another ring with Miami, yeah, I think it makes it easier for him to walk away.
Exactly. So it's very possible. Um,
Um,
yeah. So we of course we were talking about that number 3 spot as well. The Cardinals have. I want to point out as well. So this one actually came through the pipeline this morning, right before we went live. Um, the NFL app actually sent the notification out saying the Falcons had traded for a former number 3 pick, and I misread it as the Falcons traded for the number 3, and I was like, hold the fucking phone. No, what they did was they traded a 5th round pick to the Lions for Jeff Okuda, who was, of course, the number 3 pick in the 2020 draft. How do we feel about that one, though?
I like it, man. The Falcons have been busy.
They really have.
You know, I think that that's a solid pickup for that. And the Lions also have been busy.
Mm-hmm. Lions
You
been very
know,
busy, actually. Let's not discount that.
yeah, I think that I'm shocked it was a 5th.
I'm a little shocked, too. I feel like should have been worth a little bit more,
Maybe a
but
third. Maybe a third.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe
you
a
have
5th and an extra pick.
yeah, something like that. You know, but you already have he's an established named player.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
He hasn't been bad. He hasn't been bad. He's been a great
no,
corner.
he's not bad. I would not classify him as bad at all.
At the same time,
Uh,
wasn't he also who was he playing opposite of last year? Wasn't it Slay?
Okuda, no, not in, Okuda was in the Lions.
Yeah. No, Slay was on the Eagles, right?
Eagles last year.
Yeah.
He would have been opposite.
Who was he playing opposite of?
I don't even remember.
Well, the good thing we have the internet right here to help us.
It's true. Pull it up.
We don't need a screen share. Just so that you know, we actually have a couple of things that we have planned for. We have a screen share mode now. We'll be pulling some stuff up to take a look at. Roster depth chart.
2022.
Here we go. Depth chart at cornerback. It was Okuda and Jerry Jacobs. That's the only 2 cornerbacks they had listed. And then they had Kirby Joseph, C.J. Moore, and Ifeatu Mafulanu on safety, and Will Harris as a nickel corner. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'd say if anything, that means that honestly, I'd say that Detroit's probably looking to beef up their secondary in the draft. Then, if that's the case,
Yeah.
most likely,
Yep.
and not a bad call.
Oh, I mean, they did lose Jamal Williams.
Mm-hmm. But they got David Montgomery.
They got David Montgomery. I think they have Jared Goff, who's serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
They have Amon-Ra. You know, they have Hawkinson. I think their offense is mostly set.
Mm-hmm. No, they don't have Hawkinson. Remember, they traded him to the Vikings midway through the season.
Right.
But behind David Montgomery, they do still also have DeAndre Swift.
And he's been there for a little while now. So,
Yep. Also, the other receivers you were trying to think of, Josh Reynolds and Jameson Williams.
yes, Jameson Williams he's gonna. I expect a big jump from him in year 2.
Absolutely, I think he's gonna really explode, especially without some of the other names out there. Oh, let's not forget Marvin Jones also returned for this year. Let's not forget about that. This depth chart that I have pulled. Oh, this just says the 2022 depth chart. That's why.
Fun fact about Marvin Jones: he is the only player in the NFL with multiple 4 touchdown games as a receiver.
Huh. Didn't know that.
Yep, I read that not too long ago, and that's exactly where I went. I went, huh. Moving on. So, big news up out of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
John Elway is no longer employed by the Broncos. His contract ran out, and it was not renewed by the team. This was amicable. Both sides knew that this was happening. They knew that it was coming. I don't know if they were unable to work out a deal or if they just said, "Hey, we're done." John Elway did say that he loves the Broncos, loves the organization, and he would still help them in like a council, advisory type role, but he is no longer employed by the Broncos front office.
Yeah, so I remember actually seeing that news last week, and I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting." But I mean, it makes sense naturally. Like, if you're ready to move on, he's been with the organization for decades now. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
won 2 Super Bowls.
yeah, and well, not even just that, but again, he has been like he was the general manager for a hot minute, I think, and
He facilitated that Peyton Manning trade.
that's also true.
And
So,
also, part of me thinks that he was okay with walking away because they got Sean Payton.
that's actually a really good point. I could see that.
I think he could be like, hey, like, Sean Payton's a fucking football genius. I trust him. You guys are in good hands. I'm going to step away for a little bit, do the family thing or whatever he wants to do because he is an older person. He's not old by any means, but he is an older person, and maybe he wants to enjoy retirement and all that. And, who's to say he doesn't pull, do what Gruden did and join ESPN or relax for a few years and then come back and do something else.
Also true. Yeah, he's got a lot of options right now. He
does.
I mean, he's John Elway. Who's going to tell him otherwise?
Exactly. And I think that Sean Payton being there really helped him come to terms with like his contract being running out.
I think that's a fair argument. I can agree with that. And then one other free agency news that we had, which is kind of bridging the gap here, and I think that was the perfect segue. Former NFL, did he ever make All-Pro? DJ Swearinger. I don't think he ever made All-Pro, but I mean he was definitely a great defensive name for a couple of years. Has signed with not anybody in the NFL, but he's gone to the DC Defenders. And I want to take this as a perfect segue to talk about the fact that we had the best week of the XFL all season. And we've been singing the praises of the XFL all season so far, but my God, this week was insane. All 4 games came down to the wire. The 2 of the 4 games ended in the first overtime games of the season. I mean, we had just things going all over the map. And then, with the exception of the one XFL game, well, the first XFL. Hang on, let me pull my notes up instead of me just spitballing.
Before you get into that, let's not forget that DJ Swearinger played for the Commanders when they were name redacted.
Mm-hmm. So this is still kind of a homecoming for him.
It's a homecoming. It's absolutely a homecoming for him.
Let's see. That's probably why I recognize the name as well as I do, because he was on the Defenders for so long. Or the Commanders. Name redacted.
Yeah.
Let's see. Actually, let's take that back. I've pulled up his
Holy shit. I did not realize he bounced around that much.
Yeah, I just pulled up his career history, and that's why it kind of blew my mind there. He bounced around quite a bit. Let's follow this trail. He was drafted in 2013 to the Texans. 2013, 2014, he was in the Texans. 2015 to the Bucks. 15 to 16 with the Cardinals. 17 to 18 with the name redacted. 18 to 19 with the Cardinals. 19 with the Raiders. 19 to 20 with the Saints. 21 as a practice squad member for the Colts. And now he's signing into the Defenders. What a hell...
Yeah, good for him for continuing his football dreams, man.
Yeah. I mean...
And now, look, that's 2 former NFL players that have joined the XFL mid-season.
Yeah. And we'll get to Philip Lindsay later. So let's start off the first game of the week. We had our first game that went to overtime. Vipers and Battlehawks went to overtime. Ends with the Battlehawks taking the 4-point lead. That was the biggest gap of the week. Everything else was either a 1 or 2 point win.
That's insane.
Yeah, this was an insane week. Now, let's just go ahead and knock this out right here. What do you think of the new overtime rules, or for the XFL's overtime rules?
What are you referring to specifically?
The way they do it, where it's 3 tries from the 5-yard line for 2-point conversions.
I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest.
I am. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. It's like penalty kicks to me, and it's
Yeah,
it's it puts a lot more because I mean, everyone always complains about overtime rules already in the NFL and how broken they can be sometimes. This is pretty. This is like super conclusive. It's you're on the 5 yard line. Can you get the touchdown? Can you get the conversion? And it's each get 3 tries, and then if you, it's either 3 tries or until somebody wins. I
reminds me a lot of college football when they get to that point in their overtime.
I think that's where they got the rules from, like, or potentially. But again, I am a huge fan of this. I thought it was really it makes for really entertaining football for sure. So talking about playoff, so of course we're coming down. This is week 8 of 10. We've got a lot of playoff implications that came into play. Vegas technically was already eliminated because of course they're part of that North Division that's just stacked. Uh, St. Louis had to win in order to keep their spot secure. Um, Keep in mind also St. Louis was playing without AJ McCarron. Of course, AJ McCarron last week suffered that I think it was a shoulder injury,
Yeah.
and then that pulled him out of the game for a bit. He came in, he finished the game, and then all week he was on the injury report as limited, questionable, and then he was listed as an inactive at the beginning of the game. Nick Tiano comes in, not the best numbers in the world, but I mean he held the team together. 194 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And honestly, like if you watch the replays on that, both of those interceptions were just great defensive plays by Vegas. Vegas has sneakily had a really good defense this year.
Mhm.
I got to give it credit where the credit is due. And at the same time, also, yes, I mean, finding your quarterback halfway through the season isn't the best position in the world, but it's a good position to be in right now for the future of that team. Jalen McClendon is over the past 2 weeks has really developed into a hell of a player.
Yeah.
I think he also I could be wrong. I believe he also led the team in rushing yards, which not by much, but it happens. Let's see, XFL.
Someone's got to lead the team in rushing yards.
What's that?
Someone has to lead the team in rushing.
Right. Scores. Week 8. Yeah, he led the team. Well, he led the team for rushing. He had 62 rushing yards on top of how many passing yards did he have? 159. So, nice little change of pace if that's the case.
For sure.
Their rushing attack was really good. I mean, you look at these rushing numbers: 62 yards from McClendon, 57 yards from Brian Burt, 51 yards from Rod Smith, 30 yards from John Lovett. They had a really good rushing attack yesterday
Balanced rushing
or
attack.
Saturday rather. Yeah, very balanced. Um, I mean, honestly, the whole team it was more rushing than it was passing. So, and you go from there. And again, this is going against St. Louis, who has had one of the best defenses in the league all season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due.
Sure.
Um, I do also want to point out, and I wrote this in the notes as well. Nick Tiano did have a 2 point conversion that he ran in, and if you go back and watch that hit, holy shit! I'm gonna see.
He got lit up.
What's up?
Got lit up.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna see if I can pull up that a video of it. No, no, come on.
Help. It would help if you spelled it right.
What do you mean?
It, not kit.
Shh. Oh, that's because it was trying to autocorrect me. Here it is. Here, let's go to screen share. Now that we have this button. Where'd it go? Come on. I just had it, and then it's just like, no, we're going to throw it away from you. It's a punter. No. No. Here it is.
The reason why they
Oh, let's do it without the volume before we get DCA'd.
one game they were down.
Let's take a look at this hit that he takes. Or am I getting black screen? Hang on. I probably should double check. Because I know, like...
Ooh, a little helicopter action.
Yeah, I saw that hit, and I'm just like, good God.
Reminds me of John Elway in the Super Bowl.
Right? Like, so he gets his props for that hit.
Oh, yeah.
I need to remember to have those queued up next time that happens. So, yeah, that was a fun little hit that he took.
Put it all on the line for your team.
Hey, when you're coming in as a backup quarterback, those are the kind of plays that you have to make.
Yep.
There was also a potential second pick that Lavert Hill had that unfortunately got called back because of a penalty. That was a really good one as well. Both of these teams, the kicking was really sketch.
Yeah. Each team missed a couple kicks.
Both kickers went 1 for 2. Donnie Hagman though was a little close, but he got it. Brian Hill fumbles for the 3rd time in 2 weeks, and I'm sorry, but if he keeps that up, that's not going to win them a playoff game. Not when we've already discussed how stacked this North Division is. It's just, it happens. And then it was, honestly, the game was really close. The Battlehawks almost lost it. The only reason they went to overtime was because of a punt fake touchdown pass that went to Gary Jennings that honestly was...
Saved the game.
Yeah, it saved the game. It was a 64-yard bomb for Gary Jennings. And he was making people miss left and right. And then we already talked about the overtime rules. It came down, and again, so for those, just to clarify once again, what it is you get 3 tries from the 5-yard line for 2-point conversions, and I think it was St. Louis missed the first one, made the second and the third, and then by that point the Vipers were out. So great way to end the first game of the week. Going into Renegades at... Wow, I put Renegades at Vipers. It should be Renegades at Renegades at Guardians, rather. That ended with the Renegades winning 18-16. Quentin Dormady is still the future of the Orlando Guardians. That man is a one-man offense.
I was going to say, he is the Orlando Guardians.
That poor guy is doing everything for that team. He's the Lamar Jackson of the XFL.
Yeah.
He is doing everything for them. Let me see. Let me pull up the stats from that game. He had, again, another week of over 300 yards. I believe that's back-to-back weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Only 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles.
Ugh.
1 of those got returned for a touchdown.
Ugh.
His 17 rushing yards led the team. Someone get this man some help.
Seriously,
for the love of God.
Man.
Get him a rushing attack. Get him some line defense. Obviously, your receiving core is doing great. If he's putting up 300 yards, that means clearly the receivers are doing it right. Cody Latimer is still leading the league in receiving yards, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Rogers had 135 yards and a touchdown. It was pretty good. On the other side of the ball, we did see, of course, we talked about last week, we had the first trade in the XFL with Luis Perez going to Arlington, and he got the start this week. Honestly, I'd say he did better than they have had at quarterback over the past couple months
with Plitt and
Slaughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the biggest of improvements, but I mean, an improvement is an improvement. And when you consider, of course, Arlington is still in the playoff hunt right now somehow because of again that the way the divisions are aligned right now. They're still on the inside track for that second seed in the playoffs, which is disgusting that a 4-4 team. I can't say shit. I'm a Panthers fan. We saw what happened in the NFC South last year. I can't say shit. What am I talking about? Will Hill gets an amazing tackle, textbook, but then he runs at the mouth after the tackle, gets his second unsportsmanlike, gets himself ejected from the game. Again, these are not the things that are gonna win you a game, or win you a playoff game at all. That's not a good look for the Renegades. Now Orlando, this was my problem. So Orlando is down 18-10, or no, 18-9, and Dormady gets the touchdown. I believe that was the touchdown that he got to Eli Rogers, right? That makes it 18-15. A 3-point game. This is late in the fourth. You got 3 minutes left. Everything in you should say, go for the 3 points, right?
Tie the game.
Tie the game. Give yourself some life. They instead choose to go for 1 and then expect the defense to hold their ground.
And you haven't done that all season.
You are in win now mode.
Yeah, you have to be in that situation. That is poor coaching.
Legitimately, if the Guardians had won this game, they would still be technically in playoff contention.
Just crazy to think about.
I know, insane. When you think about they're 1-6 going into the week.
Crazy to think about.
But when you're in win now mode, you got to take that shot. So if anything, like you said, this is poor coaching. This falls on the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
Dormady ends up actually on that next drive when they get the ball back. That was his third fumble, and that's what got them eliminated.
It'll seal the deal for you.
It seals the deal. Now,
you can't turn the ball over late in games like that. You can't turn the ball over as much as Dormady did, but especially in the fourth quarter like that.
But at the same time, if he's got no coverage, no help, and he's trying to do everything by himself, I'm not surprised that he fumbled that ball.
I agree with you.
But again, this was probably like the most boring of the games this week. And again, it was a lot of a lot of bad calls on not on the refs' part, just on the players' parts. You see players getting ejected for stupid mistakes. You see Dormady failing left and right. Not his fault, just because of the fact that there's just no help. The coaching is bad. Like, this...
It's not on him.
It's not on him. And the sad part is, despite as sloppy of the play, the Renegades are still in the running for the playoffs. Meanwhile, you've got the Roughnecks and the Brahmas. Still think you're a Brahmas fan? You giving up on that?
I have. They disappointed me a few too many times. I can't support that. I can't support New York.
I believe they're now 2-6.
It's funny because I'm a Cowboys fan.
It's hilarious. So this is the second game to go into overtime. Honestly, this was also sloppy. Brandon Silvers returns to the lineup after being out last week. He wasn't completely impressive, but I mean, less than 200 yards, but still had. So he had less than 200 yards, less than 50% completion, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Would you say that's a good or bad play?
I'd say that is the definition of mediocrity.
Yeah, I completely agree. Meanwhile, the Brahmas don't even have a quarterback. I mean, granted, Jack Cohn, he put up 190 yards, 2 interceptions. They have 5 different quarterbacks that they've played this season. None of them have broken 1,000 yards.
I love this next stat, though.
The only one with a positive touchdown-interception ratio is Paxton Lynch. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He is the only one of the 5 quarterbacks that they've played this season that has a positive. Everybody else, I think Jack Cohn has the most games played, and he's 5-6. I think there were a couple other ones that were like 2-3. It's ugly. Receiving wow, the rushing game though. Jaquez Patrick, San Antonio's got something there for sure. He put up 96 yards and a touchdown. He was averaging 6 yards a run. That's honestly that's some great numbers. And he had another 38 yards of receiving. So they've got something in Jaquez Patrick. That's something that they can build an offense around in the future. Both teams with 2 interceptions. 3 of those 4 interceptions came on back-to-back drives. 2 of them came on back-to-back plays. One of them went to a big man who ran it all the way back into within, I think, the 10 or the 5-yard line. It reminded me of James Harrison in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Well, that's a lot more than a couple years ago, but
Yeah, it was.
a lot longer than a couple years ago. That was like, what, 2010?
Like that.
Something like that, yeah. But, I mean, it was a good play. It was a good play. And then what brought the game to overtime was a John Parker Romo kick. 49 yards right down the middle. And probably that's the best kicking I've seen out of the XFL so far this year. I did the stats on it. John Parker Romo and Dominic Eberle of the Sea Dragons are both 13 and 14 on kicking. And I think Romo has the longer kick by like 2 yards. So they're really neck and neck for best kicker in the league right now. I mean, gotta have a kicker.
Yeah, you have to.
Yep.
Them going 13 to 14 and seeing the mediocrity of kicking we saw in the Vipers Battlehawks.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true.
It'll show need a kicker.
You need a kicker. Grant,
And I just want to go on record and state there is no relation between John Parker Romo and Tony Romo.
no, that's where the Parker comes in.
I felt that was necessary.
Yeah. And then we get our game of the week. By far, game of the season so far.
Hang on.
Huh?
You put a note in here that you didn't touch on, and you put a note in here and you said, my God, both teams played sloppy. When people say the XFL is just a minor league, this is the kind of game that gets used as an example.
And I stand by that.
And I look, dude, watching some highlights and everything, I would have to agree with you. And that's sad, though, because you and we've been covering the XFL for 8 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Just next week, the USFL starts, too.
Oof, good God. But, we're fans of the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of good this season.
They've definitely kept this offseason very entertaining.
As much as I'm not crazy about the overtime rules, look, they're trying different things and trying to be a little different than the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks that that's just the way that this game ended up being, but that does move us from a dog shit game to, like you said.
Before we get to that, actually, another thing I want to point out, this continues what I had brought up last week, where the Roughnecks are now, I believe it's 5-0 in their division, or 6. It's either 5-0 or 6-0 in their division in the South, and then 0-2 in. Oh wait, no, they're 5-3. They're 5-0 in the division, 0-3 out of the division. They've lost to all. They lost to all 3 of the South players, South teams that they played, or North teams. Excuse me.
And that North Division, like we've said, is damn good.
It's damn good. And that's why, when you've got the Roughnecks and the Brahmas putting up 2 games a season, and that's the kind of play you're getting, I can see how some people would be turned off of the league.
Yes.
Now, on the North, on the other hand, like we said, now we can get to it after we've, backtracked 2-3 times. The Defenders and the Sea Dragons put on the game of the week. The rematch from week 1, and I am willing to say now that whereas the Battlehawks were there, I think the Sea Dragons are
Oh.
the second best team in the league.
Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Linebacker Devin White, 2020. This is through the NFL app. Linebacker Devin White, a 2021 Pro Bowler and the number 5 overall pick of the 2019 draft, has requested a trade from the Buccaneers.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think he's trying to jump off of a sinking ship.
That's fair. I mean, especially like again, we're seeing the rest of the teams in the South like really building up. So, I mean, obviously the Panthers, we've been doing all the work that we have in this offseason. The Falcons, we see the work that they're putting in now. The Saints, obviously, them going out, getting Derek Carr, making a lot of their changes that they've been needing. The Bucks really are the sinking ship of the division.
But moving on, I would have to
3 interruptions down for the Defender Sea Dragons game.
I would have to agree that the Sea Dragon. I mean, I think I might be a Sea Dragons fan, man, because like I've been high on them all season.
Yeah, I think that might be your team because I
Ben
mean,
DiNucci.
good old DiNucci. DiNucci really established himself as the best quarterback in the league this week. 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, 1 interception. Whatever. I mean, you're minimizing, but again, when you have good defensive play on the other side of the ball, you can't be mad about that.
I mean,
go ahead.
interceptions happen at every level of the league, so like I'm not going to shit on him for having a pick.
Unless your name is Jordan Teamu and you put up 247 yards and 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. My man's put in work this week. Let's go.
That's back-to-back weeks where it's been a little close for you boys.
Yeah. Well, 1-point games in back-to-back weeks. And honestly, again, you had Dormady put up the star-making performance he did last week. You can't be mad about that. And against the Sea Dragons, who, again, maybe the second best team in the league, it's just... I'm not even mad that we're having this stretch of, like, tough games. We're still putting it together. Everything. The first quarter was all us. Honestly, the first half of this game was all DC. The Sea Dragons didn't really pick it up until about the late in the third, into the fourth quarter. That was when things really started getting going. But they are still, they've got it. I mean, Jacour Pearson has broken 50 receptions on the season in 8 games. That's impressive. What's not impressive is that he's only got two receiving touchdowns on the year.
Sounds like the 2014 Kansas City Chiefs.
Also true. It also reminds me of Julio Jones. A lot of yards, not a lot of touchdowns.
Yep. I do think... I mean, look, dude, DC is just nasty.
Yeah, well, both teams had a great... honestly, Seattle had the better receiving game on this one. When you look at it, I mean, look at these numbers. You had Juwan Green with 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had Blake Jackson with 53 yards. Josh Gordon putting up 39 yards. A lot of clips going around of Josh Gordon tucking the shoulder and getting that first down. Man still knows how to hit.
You love to see it.
Yeah. Jacour Pearson, of course, again had 34 yards and a touchdown. You've got some great play going around. DiNucci knows how to spread the ball around, and that's where again I agree that they might be the 2 most complete teams because they really are spreading the ball around. Abram Smith for DC again putting up another 66 yards and a touchdown. He also had one really beautiful 18-yard reception towards the end of the game that was just. He was fighting for extra yards left and right. He was juking people, spin moves. It looked like Madden just going crazy on the hit stick. Straight up. Philip Lindsay, we mentioned earlier, signed with the Seattle Sea Dragons this week. Got his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Let's just real quick, let's point out how crazy it is that he gets signed and then goes out and plays the next week.
Not that crazy. You see that in the NFL sometimes.
Yeah, but he hasn't played in how long?
It hasn't been that long. He's a former Pro Bowler. Come on.
I understand that, but like, you think for him to get into football, into game day shape, be ready to go, I think he deserves some credit for it.
I'm willing to bet that Philip Lindsay was like on a practice squad somewhere before he signed.
I mean,
Let's see.
that hair.
He actually just came off of playing for the Colts last year. And that was active roster. He was playing for the Colts. So
Okay.
he was still in shape. He was still in good shape. I mean, he bounced around. 2021, he bounced around to the Texans and the Dolphins. 2022, he spent with the Colts. And now he's with the Sea Dragons. So it's okay. I mean, it makes sense. He's still in great playing shape. I mean, he didn't put up like a lot of yards. He put up, what was it? 23 yards. He put up just as many yards as DiNucci.
Okay.
So, on twice as many attempts. But again, DiNucci, he's got wheels. What do you expect? On the other side of the ball, we mentioned all the receiving that that we had out of Seattle. Let's also mention Chris Blair, quickly emerging to being the top receiver for DC. Another 148 yards. He had another beautiful 70-yard touchdown towards the end of the game. That ended up being the game-winning touchdown for them. Now, again, it's a shame. This is the big thing that we're talking about, though, because with this win, DC locks in their playoff spot. Next week, we get Seattle versus St. Louis. That's going to determine the 2 seed in the North, because right now you've got You've got St. Louis at 6-2. You've got Seattle at 5-3.
Yep.
If Seattle wins, they're
They'll
both
have the
6-3,
head-to-head
and then it comes
tiebreaker.
down to the final week. Let's look at that week 10 schedule real quick. In week 10, you've got
Ooh.
the Battlehawks facing the Guardians again, and then you've got the Sea Dragons and the Vipers.
So neither one of them have a super tough opponent.
No. So and they both have home games. So it's very possible. Let's say Seattle wins next week. They both go into week 10 6-3. Let's say they both win that last game 7-3.
Seattle gets the tiebreaker for the head-to-head.
Would they?
I think so.
Why would they get the tiebreaker on the head to head? They would be 1-1 against each other.
Oh. Then it would go to the next tiebreaker, which would probably be conference games.
Which would still be the same. 2 losses to DC apiece and a loss to each other. Either way, the point here being you have 2 really, really good teams. One of them's not going to get to go to the playoffs.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Renegades, who are sitting at 4-4, probably will. I hate it. I hate it. They need to realign these divisions by next season. They really do.
You know, it's first season, still working out some kinks there, but
Obviously, yeah, but it's just a shame.
so that does it for football.
Yeah.
That does it for football.
Surprisingly, the most of what we had to talk about this week, it was the XFL. That is the majority of our news.
Yeah. So we're gonna go over to the wrestling side of things now, and I also just realized that my opener was 2 wrestling things, not a wrestling and a football thing.
Yeah, I noted that too, but I mean, it's whatever.
Whoops.
It's
So
whatever.
Why don't you tell us about how All Elite completely smashed it this week, buddy?
Yeah, so after last week, we were feeling really defeated about WWE with Vince being there all WrestleMania weekend and messing with things, and then the sale to Endeavor and a lot of that causing a lot of question marks. Mm-hmm. Coming into Wednesday night, we were saying this during the episode last week, AEW had to knock it out of the park. They had to swing for the fences on this one. They had to make sure they hit all the right notes at all the right times, and goddamn, they smashed the home run. Fucking
Really
first
did.
things first, you open the show with the debut of Switchblade. Let's talk about Switchblade real quick, because honestly, I would say this is the biggest news out of wrestling so far this week. Is Jay White signing with All Elite? You get this opening match that's supposed to be happening with Ricky Starks and Juice Robinson, and then you hear that Switchblade go off. You see the Bullet Club logo, and it's just pandemonium.
Yep.
That you open the episode like that. That is the biggest stamp of approval that you can get. Fightful reports that he has signed a full-time multi-year deal. There were also reports that he signed with AEW because of the rumors that Vince was back, and that WWE had failed to communicate properly in regards to signing him. That's huge. It's really huge. I know we have this in the notes further down as well. We didn't mention this, but there's discussion of right now that there's potentially a hiring freeze in the WWE. And even though they had their eyes on people like Jay White and Kota Ibushi, none of them are signing because of the fact that there is this hiring freeze, whether it be because, again, nothing's confirmed about it. A lot of people think it has to do with the Endeavor sale, and they're making sure that the money is correct on all that kind of stuff before they start signing any big money deals. But that might have a lot to do with it, and in return, they lost what possibly could have been one of their biggest stars.
Yeah.
Um,
and speaking of signing stars, AEW got Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah, well, he worked a Supercard of Honor, but I mean, this week he gets the All Elite graphic. That says it all in itself. We get Christian Cage returning.
Real quick though, thinking about it, the hiring freeze does make sense. Although I do still believe they dropped the ball when it comes to Jay White.
Yeah, I think a hiring freeze, should be a thing, but when you have a big name like that available, you put that on you put that to the side, and you're like, no, we need to get you. And I mean, it's already there's already signs pointing to Kota signing with AEW as well. It makes sense for him to sign with AEW, but
it does.
That at the same time, that again is WWE's loss for All Elite's game. So what can you do? Christian Cage returns. Backstage promo. I know there's been a lot of talk about if Christian was done with AEW, if he's going to go back to the WWE, have one last run with Edge. No, he's back in a backstage promo with a returning Luchasaurus. Now, Luchasaurus has a new red mask. They're teasing a complete gimmick change for him. Somebody pointed out that it might have something to do with the court case that's ongoing right now with him and the creator of the mask about intellectual property and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes with a name change, and they just stop going with the whole him being a dinosaur with a master's degree thing. I mean, honestly, him going ever since he turned heel, he needed something different. Luchasaurus just sounds like he's just too friendly, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, and I was thinking about this, make him Vibora again. Bring back his Lucha Underground persona.
That's not a bad shout.
Yeah.
It's not a bad shout at all.
I think it would be pretty cool if they did it that way. Show a little bit of love to the old school of Lucha Underground, which, let's not forget, there's a lot of Lucha Underground guys on both sides of the divide now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm here for it too. How about you talk that TK announcement?
So Tony Khan, I lost it. Let me scroll. Sorry, lost it. Tony Khan announced that All In is going to be in Wembley in August. Reports are already stating that All Out will still be held the week after, but British fans have been clamoring. They want wrestling back in the UK, and we saw the amazing turnout that was Clash at the Castle. We had the reports that Money in the Bank sold out in under a minute, right?
Something like that, yeah.
under 5 minutes. I know that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I remember when WWE was hoovering up all the British indies, and a lot of the British people that we follow on YouTube were saying like British wrestling is dead. This is big.
Yeah. Well, this being AEW's UK debut as well. Let's not forget about that. I was watching Cultaholic this morning. I was listening to the news reviews, and they brought up a really good point though. Is that because there's the big talk about if it's going to be Wembley Arena or Wembley Stadium. Now, to put that in numbers that the American fans would understand, Wembley Arena is your standard 15, 20,000 man arena, whatever. Wembley Stadium, not counting the seats that you could put down on the ground, seats about 90 grand. You're trying to sell out a huge stadium. And if you can at least sell half of that, then it's already a success.
Agreed.
And I don't see how that would be difficult to do for them. Also, I don't have this in our notes, but one of the things that was being discussed as well is apparently Dax Harwood has already started campaigning for a CM Punk return for All Out, or for All In. They want CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite. I'd pay to see that.
There's a story there.
There's definitely a story. There's a lot of stories there.
Yeah.
Speaking of FTR, that match versus careers match, the title versus career match last week against the Guns, we were saying that was going to be big telling because again it was a lot of foreshadowing of is that going to end the careers of FTR? Nope. Even with interference and whatnot, FTR win the titles. Dax after they go off the air is putting over TK. They're still all Elite.
This is me pouting.
I don't blame you.
I want them back in the E.
I don't blame you.
But kudos to them for winning the belts. They are an incredible tag team. Have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy and all Elite. Good for them. Being selfish.
Yeah. I mean, again, so I think what it is, one of the things that Dax had said in an interview was that the biggest reason that they decided to stick with AEW was him getting to spend more time with his daughter. And again, when you put all AEW has been a very family first organization since they first came out. So this is not a surprise to me.
I will always accept that answer as an appropriate answer to why you make a decision in your life.
Yeah. Now, everything that we just covered, this is all stuff that happened just on that 2 hours of Dynamite.
Yeah.
When we say they knocked it out the park, we mean they knocked it out the park. That's not even the end of everything they did this week. PW Insider confirmed that they hired Adam Hopkins, the former VP of Communications over at WWE, who had left back in January. A lot of people had a lot of good things to say about him, and it turned into him signing. So, again, WWE's loss, AEW's gain.
Yep.
I also have in here some comments about Rampage and Battle of the Belts. Both of those were live. I just so happened to catch them right after SmackDown. Here's my problem, is that you call it Battle of the Belts.
Incoming.
Not really a rant. It's not really a rant. It's just, this has been echoed by a lot of people already. Battle of the Belts is pointless if no belts are going to change hands and none of those matches are going to be meaningful. The most meaningful thing that we got out of it was Orange Cassidy defending his belt, or defending his title against Drew Listico, winning the match, and then being challenged by Buddy Matthews for Dynamite this upcoming week.
That could be a heater of a match, though.
I kind of want to watch that one, but of course I work Wednesdays, so.
Yep, Wednesdays are.
We need to get a third guy just to cover AEW at this point.
I bet I've got a couple people that have asked to come on and talk football with us.
Yeah, well, when those days come, we'll definitely be doing guest stars at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other news I had out of AEW, this article went up. Hang on, let me get it up here. Involving Jonathan Gresham. He finally broke his silence and started talking about that talk with Tony backstage, the whole where he was doing the whole, you know where I was ranked on the PWI and all that kind of stuff, losing and stuff. The most of it was him admitting that, you know, he did things the wrong way. He went about it the wrong way. He felt disrespected, but that shouldn't have been a reason for him to react the way that he did. He's been seeing therapy to work through some of the issues that he has, and I mean, good for him. I'm always a huge advocate for therapy and self-improvement. So,
100%. Kudos to acknowledging a wrong. Kudos for going out and admitting you're wrong, because that's not easy either.
Exactly.
It is very funny though that he tried to use like the PW Insider rankings.
That will still never
Like-
make me. That will never not make me laugh.
Yeah, because like it's ridiculous.
It
you
is,
know
but
what I
you
mean?
can definitely
Like,
tell at the moment it was like the man was going through some stuff.
oh
when
yeah,
he goes to that.
oh yeah. But
So,
again, man, look, like
Yeah, one of the
Like you
things
said-
that he did put over though was that he did publicly apologize to Castagnoli on the day, as it was a difficult day for everybody. But he wanted to acknowledge like, no, like me and Claudio, we squashed that shit right off the back. I wanted him to know it was never anything about him, but this was still like, it's business, and I don't want people to think that I was coming at them the wrong way. I mean, honestly, good on Jonathan Gresham. This isn't even like a face saving move or anything. This is just like, you know what, you learned from this, and good on you. You're still one of the best wrestlers on the planet.
yeah, he was top 10 on PWI.
Oh,
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
damn it.
There you go, Meltzer.
Good old Meltzer. Before we get into all the WWE news, I do want to point out something. Last night, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and it catches my eye that Sonata actually won the IWGP Championship this weekend at Sakura Genesis. Now, together, let's go into screen share. I want to pull up the results because I haven't even looked at this yet. So this is gonna be like real-time reactions to us seeing this. So how well do you see this on your end?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
So we have our first match, which the participants were revealed as they make their entrance. You've got Yo, Desperado, Tanahashi versus Great-O-Khan, Toru Yano, and Suzuki. Toru Yano getting the schoolboy roll-up pin on Tanahashi. Yano is on a hot streak lately. I feel like every time I tune into to New Japan, Yano's getting a roll-up win. He's being well protected at the moment. For somebody that's been always treated as a comedy character, good on him.
Yeah.
Sho, Takahashi, Tokyo Pimp, Takahashi, and Evil. So you've got House of Torture versus Akira, Aaron Hanare, Jeff Cobb. I think those are all technically either... What is the name of fucking Will Ospreay's stable? Why am I blanking? United Empire. So United Empire over House of Torture. 8-minute match. Jeff Cobb with the win. I like it. We got LIJ, Bushi, Takagi, and Naito versus Dookie, Kanemaru, and Taichi. Dookie. Kanemaru with the figure 4 on Bushi. Okay. We've got Master Wato, Hikuleo, Tamatanga, Phantasmo, Kenta, Finley. So Bullet Club gets the win. Phantasmo with the CR2 on Master Wato. Obviously, Wato's there to eat the pin. We have a women's match. We have Mercedes Monet's first defense of the women's championship versus AZM and Hazuki in a 3-way. All right. I don't like how she's been booked so far, but I like
Right.
that she's getting. Yeah, I do like that she's getting these wins.
Oh, she's already defended the IWGP better than she'd ever defended the fucking Raw belt.
That's for damn sure. For the World TV Championship, we've got Zack Sabre Jr. retaining over Shooter. Good for Shooter getting a match for
Yeah.
a championship.
Yep.
That's another note too. Is that at
probably
Rebellion,
a
I think it's
hell of
either I think it's Rebellion this weekend or something. One of the big pay-per-views that's coming up this weekend. Eddie Kingston got injured and had to pull out of a match, and they replaced him with Gabriel Kidd. So
Really?
yeah, look at the new boys of look at the young boys of New Japan actually coming through. Tag team championship match, new tag team championship. Yoshihashi and Goto dropping the titles to Fletcher and Davis. Aussie Open, the new IWGP Tag Team Championship.
For them.
Which is funny because I was the one that was saying they were going to win the Impact titles last weekend.
Yep.
So, good for them. And junior heavyweight, Takahashi defends against Robbie Eagles successfully. I'm
Not familiar. I'm not familiar with Robbie Eagles.
He's one of the up and comers out of New Japan. He was a young boy that really made his name and strong. I think he's from Australia. He's not bad. I've watched a few of his matches. And then of course our championship match, Okada versus Sonata. Sonata, of course, the winner of the New Japan Cup. This was his opportunity to cash in on that. And he finally gets his first championship reign. And honestly, I don't know what to say there. Like, good on Sonata. Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Okada doesn't really need the belt anymore.
No.
I mean, I get he's their new ace and whatnot. He is their Roman Reigns, but good on Sonata for finally getting the big win.
Absolutely.
This right here was the reason I wanted to look this up.
Shit.
What's up?
I'm just bowling a china shop over here. Don't mind me.
Good job. So
Whatever, man. It's my house now. I can do whatever I want in here.
Exactly. Oh, all right. So let's bring it back in. Pull my notes back up here. All right. Let's
the
talk
E?
some WWE news finally.
To the E.
On
To
to
the
the
E.
And obviously, the biggest news out of the E this week. Tell them about it.
So, Raw last week ended with, Brock turning on Cody and all that, and we weren't super big fans of it, but reports had come out that Cody versus Brock is in place for, quote, at least the past month, end quote, that this was the direction they wanted to go for a while. That's telling because that means that this was a Trips decision, not a Vince decision on the 1 week that he decided to pop into Gorilla.
Not only that, but also there's been a lot of talk about how in the past week especially, Cody has really come out and said, he's like, no, I actually was like, I was excited for this Brock program. Like, he's excited to work with Brock.
And if Brock can be bothered, it can be an amazing program.
And I feel like, and from what I'm understanding already, Brock has already said he's all in on this too. Like, he's okay with this. Like, I think both of the, like, Brock especially, and we've said this many a time, when Brock is motivated, he's still really good.
Really fucking good.
And I think that this is really a great way to go for it. One of the other things that I want to point out, we forgot to put this in the notes. There was a lot of people that were discussing, just like, well, how does this even work? And it was like, they mentioned, it's like, no, Brock's slowly been teasing. It's been by design. He's slowly been teasing this heel turn.
Also,
a lot of the ignoring the Omos matches, walking out a lot of the time. A lot of the stuff that he was doing, just being like a little bit more of his loose cannon self.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really been showing that Brock's been making that turn. So
also, so Stone Cold's greatest rival of all time, Brock, right? Or Vince, depending on how you want to look at that. We have great rivalries with Edge and Cena, Taker and HBK. Who is Roman Reigns' greatest rival?
so far,
It's probably Brock.
So far, yeah. I would argue
probably-
another name that's going to come up later, but yeah.
So, but right now the story is Cody chasing Roman's belt, right?
Yeah.
What better? And again, you and I were very critical of the way they booked Cody leading to Mania. I remember that the Raw after Rumble, we were sitting here saying that he went to a 15-minute match with he had a 15-minute match with Chad Gable, and we were like, he should have squashed him. If you're trying to build up Cody to beat Roman, what better way to build up Cody going for the undisputed belts at SummerSlam than having him beat Roman's greatest rival in Brock Lesnar?
Exactly. And that actually, like, again, so a lot of what everybody's saying is that, like, Cody was saying the whole I've got to finish the story. Obviously the story's not done, and this makes for a great chapter in between. You have to beat Brock in order to get to Roman, and it makes it further legitimizes Cody's win if and when it happens. So I mean, I like it. I'm completely here for this.
I told you before we went live that I finally went back and watched night 2, and knowing the result of the match allowed me to enjoy the match for what it is a lot more.
Exactly. Like
I
I
will
feel
look
like,
back.
and I was even making this argument on the night, was that everyone was making this huge stink about, oh my god, this was Cody's moment, you should have pulled the trigger and whatnot. And I was just like, nah, hang on, let him cook. Let him cook a little bit.
It's like I said last week, there's a lot of meat left on that bone and a lot of story left to be told with the Usos dropping their belt and Roman not dropping his. Like, there's a lot left there.
There's a lot of teasing of people, like, turning on, like, the bloodline already turning on each other. We have it on here as well, the reports of tension between Paul Heyman and Jey Uso.
Yep.
That may be kayfabe, that may be real world, that may be outside of kayfabe, maybe real. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's just we saw the reports. We kind of want to take note of them. I honestly, I'm taking that with a grain of salt because it could be anything.
Because it's definitely partly kayfabe because they're showing that on TV.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't know also what's happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, but I'm willing to bet that that's pure kayfabe.
I think I'm leaning towards kayfabe. Before we get too far off on this, who would you say, who was the other name you were thinking of for Roman's greatest rival?
Seth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and touch on this as well. There was an interview during Mania week that Daniel Cormier did with Roman Reigns, and I love this because there was a lot of people saying, like, he basically points out that Seth had said that he still wants to main event Mania, and that his dream opponent for Mania would be Roman. And then he turns around and he asks Roman, he's like, well, what do you think about that? What do you think about, like, dream Mania opponents that you have yet to have? And he's like, actually, no, Seth's a great shout.
So he did this out of character?
Yeah, this was out of character. This was on an interview with Cormier on, like, just, I think it was during WrestleMania Saturday.
Okay.
And again,
That deserves a main event.
what was the first thing I said after Mania last week? What was the first thing I said?
Seth to be the one.
Roman Seth at Mania 40.
Yeah.
Seth to be the one to take the title. Seth being the only person during this run to defeat Roman. It's building up. It is still my Nostradamus moment. If this happens, if this comes true, and we get Roman versus Seth main eventing at WrestleMania 40, I'm going to be the biggest I told you so person in the entire world.
No, that's not who you are at all.
I will be preaching it I will be sitting here time stamping everything. It's just like, y'all see that? Y'all see that? I called that a year ago. Also, and I don't think we've mentioned this on the air, I was also the first person to call a 1,000-day reign from Roman.
We have mentioned it on air because I backed you up on it because I agree with you. I remember, yeah.
I remember sitting in the office that day and I was just like, watch this turn into a 1,000-day reign. That was when we were co-workers.
I don't know if Roman's going to hold the belt till Mania next year, but he is guaranteed to get 1,000 days.
Yeah, he's definitely holding it until at least SummerSlam. But
the earliest, yeah.
I also feel like at this point, like rushing Cody back up to the picture is like it's not really the best way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking about interviews with Daniel Cormier, Brock Lesnar says he is looking forward to a potential program with Gunther. That was my opening with the future of big men slapping meat.
Big meaty men slapping meat, Big E be damned.
Yeah. Oh my God,
Yes.
Gunther. Here's this. This is a simple fucking story. All right, I'm gonna fantasy book for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Cody goes over Brock at Backlash, and then we build to Brock being like, "I've never held IC.
He
I
wants
want
his
it."
own triple crown. Wait, has Brock ever won a tag title?
I don't think Brock's ever won anything but a top championship.
Bork Laser.
Orc Laser. Shout out TPS. TFS.
Oh, people have been
TFS.
people have been saying Bork Laser for years.
Yeah, I know. I just think of their Nuzlocke with Green.
Yeah. Let me see. New Japan Heavyweight Championship. He's got the WWE Championship 7 times, the Universal Championship 3 times, a King of the Ring, Money in the Bank, 2 Royal Rumbles, 5
Let's not talk
Slammies,
about that Money in the Bank.
and a non-Slammy WWE Year-End Award for Hottest Rivalry. So yeah, no, he has only ever won either the World Champion or the Universal Championship.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's a simple story. I want the IC. I've never had it. Give it to me.
I can see that being a thing.
They're
And
being
especially like
no.
Lesnar seems to be in it for the long haul. He's actually.
I-
I feel like Lesnar in the past, where it's just been like, oh, he just wants to leave whenever he wants or whatever. I feel like Brock has finally gotten to that point now where he's back to having fun.
That's yes. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think he's legitimately having fun. I think remember when Trips took over and there were the reports that Brock walked out on the day and he was all upset. I think that Triple H has done a good job of communicating with Brock and being like, look, this is my vision. This is what I want to do. Blah 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 blah. And I think Brock's here for it.
I mean,
When,
he let Lesnar come down to the ring in a tractor. Come on.
yeah,
Let's not forget that was the first Triple H pay-per-view.
yeah, it was. God, that was such a good match. That was the best match of Roman and Brock's career.
Disagree.
Or,
Disagree, but it's definitely top 3. I would
What do you
say
think?
I would say one of the 2 Jey Uso matches from the early run would be the best match.
I'm saying the best rock between Brock and Roman.
Oh, best between Brock and Roman? Oh god, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Not even a
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah.
That is
No, I
not
would
even a
agree with-
question. That's their best match.
I would agree with your statement about Roman alone with Jey Uso. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Jey Uso match, and that's why, again, I think there is still more to do with that bloodline stuff, and why you can still tease the whole Roman holding on to the title until WrestleMania 40s, because there's still so many more stories to tell. Jay finally rebelling.
Yeah.
We could still finally get Jay versus Jimmy. That's still a possibility.
I think that's our WrestleMania 40 match.
Jay versus Jimmy? Ooh,
That's-
that'd be a really good WrestleMania 40 match.
Mark that down for me for my most Nostradamus moment.
Let's go. I like that one. Let's talk the other.
right.
Let's talk the other biggest news out of the WWE this week.
SmackDown.
SmackDown. What did we get on SmackDown?
Triple H announced the draft.
That's right. It's back. There were rumors about it. Is it gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? And honestly, I'm here for it. He himself has said he always wanted to hold off the draft until after WrestleMania because that's when it feels like a natural like season premiere type deal.
It is.
I think there's discussion right now of it happening. I think in May in Jacksonville. I think is what they said. This could also be when we finally start seeing all the call-ups and returns that we've been talking about. There, we mentioned it earlier that there's rumors of a hiring freeze. That nobody's been getting hired. That's probably what played into Jay White, Kota Ibushi not coming over. But, and this is a quote that was, I believe that Fightful put up. There have been no main roster hires that have been publicly revealed outside of ones who were signed in 2022. Now, to go into this further, there are people that were signed in 2022 that have not debuted. We saw how long it took Chelsea Green to come back onto the screens. Her contract was signed last year. As a follow-up to that, yesterday Fightful Select releases a report that Eric Young is another one of those names that was brought back into WWE after his contract with Impact was done. They knew about that as far back as October. Eric Young is under WWE contract. He just has not been used yet. We could see him debuting in the draft.
Yeah. Yep. I think both of those are good, solid points.
Another one, and this is one that I was calling weeks ago as well. There was an editorial that was written by Robert Lentini of Sportskeeda this weekend. He pointed out that the draft is also the perfect place and the perfect time to bring back Mandy Rose.
Ooh.
Again, bring it.
Absolutely. It's funny because I was watching, before we went on, I was watching like one of WWE's clips on YouTube of like the top 25 Royal Rumble moments. And number 25
I watched that
was
same one.
Was when Otis saved Mandy Rose.
Yeah, I think especially like Mandy's stellar run that she had in NXT. I always thought that her untimely exit from NXT was a way to protect her before calling her back up. I was saying that months ago, and everyone was like, "You sure it's just not like behind the scenes contract talks?" I was like, "Come on, anybody by this point could have." There are other people on the roster that have posted way more racy pictures than Mandy Rose has. I still think that was a kayfabe move, and I think that again the draft was a great opportunity for her to make her way back to the main roster.
Yeah, for sure. Another big news coming out of SmackDown, and it's not anything that we saw, it's what we didn't hear. That there were no reports of Vince being at the show.
It felt like a Triple H show again. And honestly, Raw, this was the same way last night. It felt like a Triple H show.
Raw had its own issues that we'll get into, but it was not a Vince or a Triple H issue. It was extenuating circumstances outside of anyone's control.
Yeah, but the fact being, and I think it was while during the post show last night, Sean Ross Sapp was actually talking about he had heard that the big discussion was that Vince was never planned for SmackDown anyways because he had tickets to go see the Eagles in concert. Good for him. Live your best life, old man. Go ahead.
Yep.
Stay away.
Please.
Respectfully, stay away.
Respectfully.
Respectfully, stay away.
Please don't come back ever.
No, we're doing fine without you. And if we need like the board to vote on it to get you away, we will. It will be a thing. Stay away, please. That being said, also on SmackDown, this is just a touch. We had Matt Riddle coming out to save Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at the end of the show. And honestly, if you're pulling Riddle away from that whole Riddle Miz situation that was starting to build in the most awkward of ways on last week's Raw, and that let's not forget that was one of the matches that was canceled last night. Whether that was kayfabe or not, or whether it was caused by the issues, let's just go and mention that as well. There was a lot of travel issues last night, and that caused a lot of rewrites. We're used to rewrites in Raw. We're used to the McMahon way of life, but the rewrites last night being more focused around availability, the show still was cohesive. Things made sense. You're bringing Riddle back into this Bloodline feud because of the fact of him getting taken out by Solo before he went on his hiatus. I mean, I like it. I like the fact that we're getting proper usage out of Riddle, and apparently a lot of the reports coming out of it is that this run for Riddle, they want to really establish how much more of a fighter he is, and not just the goofy let's get stoned and have fun guy.
Good.
He deserves it. He absolutely deserves it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, bud. And maybe pure speculation on my part, but him getting involved with KO and Sammy and the Bloodline, and he's got a tag team partner out there that we're just waiting to come back.
A lot of reports are saying though that he's nowhere near time. He's nowhere near ready for a return yet, though. I
Time will
mean,
tell.
time will tell. I would love to still see him back, but
Same. Same. Um, we already touched on the hiring freeze. Whoa, what is going on with this? Notes? What are you doing? Um, yeah, like multiple changes to Raw based off of travel issues. I think that covers this. Is there anything else that you want to?
I just wanted to touch on the women's tag picture and
Yeah.
what's going on there. Last night we saw a lot of development there. There was rumors, of course, of the whole Trish turning on Becky thing. That got kicked into high gear last night. They come into the night. Lita is found backstage injured by Liv and Raquel. Of course, they're challengers for the night, and they're calling for help. There's no telling who hit her. It's a classic whodunit. Trish basically says, "Hey, it's okay. I'll defend the titles with you." Trish is the one that ends up eating the pin from Liv. That loses Becky and Trish the titles. They're like they talk it over in the middle of the ring, and it's just whatever. And then of course you get Trish knocking Becky in the back of the head, hits her with the chick kick. She's out. We get the Trish heel turn. Now, I like that they're hitting all the storylines right. They're hitting all the notes properly. But it did look like a really sloppy match. And I don't know if maybe that was just because of the last minute changes and what had to be done, but it was a little sloppy. Also, on that same note, coming out of everything we were also mentioning is like when there's been a lot of discussion about damage control splitting up, especially with Bayley being questioned about is she staying, is she going. She was one of those people that was was rumoring a lot of displeasure at a Vince return. And we see her back on our screens last night. She starts talking about how she got herself a triple threat match to determine the number one contender for Bianca. And Dakota and Io are like, excuse me, but you've had your opportunity. What about us? Which, let's not forget, that was something that Trish and Becky and Lita were all talking about during that during the build to their WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how good Io is and how she was technically being held back
By Bayley and
And honestly, I have to I think it's great because now we're getting the first seeds planted of the turn. You see Bayley getting looking real slyly she was half-assing her smile. She was faking the smile while Io's coming out for the match. You had the whole Dakota really hugging and congratulating Io. Bayley just kind of oh yeah, hey, good job. Io ends up winning the triple threat against Mishin and Piper Niven. We're getting Io versus Bianca. I like it.
I do too.
I like it a lot.
Be a hell of a match.
But again, they're also teasing a Bayley turn out of this, or not necessarily a Bayley turn, more like a Dakota Io face turn. But at the same time, let them all go off their separate ways at this point. I feel like damage control.
They tried it. Yeah, they tried it. It didn't work. Let's move on.
I would argue actually that everyone's over here saying that damage control was wasted potential. I would argue that they actually hit all the right notes. They properly introduced the main roster to Dakota and Io. They had tag title runs out of it. The only thing that was really missing was Bayley getting a championship out of it. That's the only thing that makes it seem like it wasn't effective. But in all reality, that was always I feel like that was always designed to be something that got Dakota and Io over on the main roster. And if that's the case, and in that note, I feel like they did it right.
It's fair. It's fair.
All right, 2 notes left.
Yeah.
I'll let you.
So, yeah. So after WrestleMania Night 2, Gunther now has the most 5-star matches in WWE history with 5. 2 of those came against Ilya Dragunov, which one during the pandemic where they had was just beautiful.
You pull out a 5-star match mid-pandemic, and that says everything.
Does Tyler Bate at Takeover Cardiff, won the fight against Sheamus at Clash of the Castle, which we touched on earlier, and the triple threat from Mania Night 2.
And of course, this is all Meltzer's eyes, and everyone has their own feelings about how the matches are, what matches really deserve what ratings. But I feel like it's still like everyone says, it's still a good guideline. And in reality, it does show that since making his way into the WWE, not only has he gotten in amazing shape, not only has he finally made his way to the U.S., but he's been putting on 5-star classics everywhere he goes. He really is the future of the company.
Look,
one of the futures.
Yeah, look, the triple threat from Mania, 5-star match. The one against Dragunov during the pandemic, 5-star match. The match against Sheamus at Clash of the Castle, 5-star match. I'm not familiar with the other Dragunov or the Tyler Bate match, so I can't speak on those. But in my eyes, he's got at least 3. And 2 of them within the last 7 months, 8 months.
The match against Tyler Bate was a complete beat down. It was beautiful. It was a great match.
But I think this could get tweaked into Gunther's gimmick. Because he's already the ring general.
Mm-hmm. 5-star general.
5-star general.
Hey, I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. Start calling him the 5-star general.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. Now, we have one last bit of news to note. Logan Paul has re-signed with the WWE. Now, the reason this is being talked about so much, though, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on screen share so we can talk about this. Let's go into this. As SB Nation, as Cage Side Seats is putting here, his very Ezekiel-like response to the claims he photoshopped the WWE contract pic, right? So here's the picture of that he put up yesterday of his contract renewal, right? And it's him, yellow jacket, giving the trips point, all the right stuff, obviously, right? Now, here's the picture side by side with his original signing. Take a look at that now. Tell me this isn't one of those find the differences between the two pictures.
Yeah, at the trivia touch things at bars and shit. Yeah, that's
and highlights, highlights news magazines. So his response was perfect too. And he's like, some people are saying I photoshopped my new contract from the first time I signed with the WWE. This is untrue. As you can see, my jacket is a different color. Stephanie is nowhere to be found. And Prime is a different flavor. It's too perfect.
I'm glad he re-signed, man. I'm glad we got him for...
It's a multi-year deal, is what people are reporting. And if that's the case, again, good on him. He really, like he says, he has found his calling. He is a natural. Triple H consistently keeps telling him, he's like, you have no right being this good at this job. It's honestly it's as good as it gets. I saw that, but everyone started showing that picture, and I was just like as soon as the two pictures got put up side by side, the internet wasted no time figuring that out. They wasted 0 time at all.
As you can see, my jacket is a different color.
All right, that's gonna do it for us this week. I was gonna see we did have a little bit of extra time at first, but we kind of got a late start. Next week, we're coming up on the NFL draft.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put out a challenge to you for next week.
Okay.
Start thinking of some ideas for mock drafts.
Okay.
Yeah. At the very least, let's do a mock draft for the first round.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'm down with that.
All right, so we'll plan for that for next week, guys. Meanwhile, that's going to do it for us. Keeping it short and sweet. It's a slow news week, and we still managed to talk quite a bit, so...
Remember, next week we're doing Monday.
Oh, good point.
Monday night recording.
Monday night recording next week, so we'll probably have it up early Tuesday. So
I'll be out traveling next week. I won't be able to do Tuesday.
no worries. That's going to do it for us, though. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that fun stuff. For Bobby Boomerang, I'm Dick Burns. Follow us on Twitter. I don't know if I know you don't use your Twitter as much, but I'm still the shit posting self that I have been since 2009. So
Yep.
if you're always looking for some good laughs, I'm there for one or two. It's worth something. One or two. It's worth something. Come on. Yeah, but that's gonna do it for us this week. Until then, peace out. Y'all have a good one.